In the western part of Ireland, there is a forest unmarked on any map. According to legend, it attracts lost souls. Once you enter the forest, no one can escape. A man mistakenly enters this forest. Fog surrounds the woods, making it impossible for him to run out of this invisible prison. The sun is about to set. The time left for the man is only 22 minutes. He immediately follows the light. It is his only way to determine the direction. The man runs desperately, but the shadows of the forest seem faster than his steps. Soon, the darkness traps him. He sees that signpost and returns to the starting point. Flocks of birds fly away, as if there is a terrifying monster ready to prey. The man climbs up a big tree, as if he's hiding from something. However, man falls from tree. He hid behind a tree in terror, but he is instantly dragged into a hole. No one in the world will know about this, including Mina. She is an employee at an exotic pet store. On that day, a colleague handed her a golden parrot to be sent to Belfast Zoo this week. Mina accepted the task. She took the parrot home, but Mina wasn't happy. On this day 15 years ago, Mina's mother passed away, and she has been grieving ever since. The next day, Mina took the parrot and traveled to the western part of Ireland. The scenery along the way was picturesque. Her mood slightly improved. Mina received a phone call from her sister, asking her to attend their mother's memorial. This phone call made Mina anxious. She didn't notice there were numerous missing persons posters on the wall. Mina followed the GPS and drove into a forest. Suddenly, her phone, radio, and other electronic devices all malfunctioned. Her car suddenly stalled. No matter how hard she tried, it wouldn't start. Mina got out of the car to investigate. The engine has started to smoke. She takes a few steps forward and finds a signpost. The sign reads threshold point 12. She returns to the car and takes the parrot with her. She walks on foot, searching for nearby houses, hoping to get some assistance, but to no avail. However, when she tries to return to the car has disappeared. Mina realizes that she is lost. In her panic, she starts running in all directions. It's getting dark. Flocks of birds fly overhead. Wild beasts can be heard around. Suddenly, Mina sees the figure of a woman. She quickly catches up to her. A small cabin appears ahead. The person opens the door and lets Mina in. Upon entering, she realizes there are two other people inside. The elder introduces them. Her name is Madeline. The woman is called Kira. The man is named Danny. They, like Mina, are all lost in this forest. After a brief conversation, Madeline urges everyone to take action and asks Kira to accompany Mina. Although Mina is still confused, she decides to join the others. Standing straight in front of a mirror, there are monsters in the forest. They are called the Watchers. Madeline reassures Mina they only come out after sunset to before sunrise. We'll stay behind the mirror and observe them. She tells Mina not to worry. The Watchers won't come in. They just want to observe newcomers. Although it's very strange, Mina will adapt. Soon, the Watchers arrive. With everyone's encouragement, Mina steps forward. Before long, applause fills the surroundings. Although Mina is scared, she manages to safely get through the first night. The next day, Mina decides to leave with the birdcage. Although her companions believe she can't successfully leave the forest, they don't stop her. Mina hasn't walked for long. She sees the figure of her mother, which frightens her. She turns around and runs. Wait for her to run out of this woods. She saw the rolling mountains. Escaping from here seems like a luxury. In Mina's confusion, Madeline finds her. Take Mina back to prison. On the way, she explains to Mina the rules of this forest. They are prey here, only by staying vigilant. To save your life. The sign Mina saw earlier was a signpost, scattered throughout the forest. Each one is half a day's walk from the prison. As long as you're within the signpost range, you can return to the enclosure before dark. Nightfall comes again. Danny introduces tonight's performance for the Watchers. Tonight's performer is Kira. She dances to the music. Mina watches a videotape to pass the time. The label reads property of Professor RK. Mina doesn't think much of it. After dawn, she follows Kira to search for medicinal herbs. Kira mentions she came here with her husband, John, a week ago. After John went out, he never returned. Kira takes Mina to a cave. There are caves everywhere in the forest. These caves are like a tunnel system, connecting underground. During the day, the Watchers hide here. Kira always reminds herself, as long as the sun hasn't completely set, they are safe. Mina asks Kira, how long have you been here? Kira estimates, it's been about 5 months. Back in the enclosure, Madeline once again explains the important points to Mina. Don't stand with your back to the mirror. Don't open the door after dark. Don't approach the caves. Stay in the light at all times. Only by following these rules, snoopers will keep them alive. In this place, Mina's only form of entertainment is that videotape. However, after a week, Mina's mental state begins to falter. She approaches the mirror, attempting to uncover its secrets. Mina knocks on the mirror. Before long, a sound comes from the other side of the mirror. Madeline immediately embraces Mina, allowing the watchers to see her. The next day, Mina goes hunting with Danny. Mina asks him, "Do you believe in the rules set by Madeline?" After receiving a negative answer, Mina, in search of a way to escape the forest, asks Danny to help her to enter the caves and explore. Use a rope to descend into the cave. She follows Danny's advice and goes to a sunny spot. She carefully examines the cave with a lighter. There are traces of human habitation here. She discovers a bicycle and a monitor. She used a rope to transfer the items to the ground. Suddenly, a large hand emerges from underground. Mina shouts Danny's name, and she successfully returns to the surface. Mina brings the items back to the enclosure. Didn't mention that she went down into the underground cave. Madeline asked several times, but Mina denies it, while Danny fiddles with the knobs on the monitor. This cage was built by Professor RK. Electronic devices cannot be used outside the enclosure, but they can be used inside. He speculates that the professor must have created some kind of power source to see the appearance of the watchers clearly. Danny places the monitor at the door. However, when night falls, the watchers do not show up. Just as everyone is puzzled, a pair of legs appears on the monitor. Immediately after, the door of the enclosure is knocked. A man outside claims to be John, saying he has been seriously injured and barely managed to make it back, urging his wife, Kira, to open the door quickly. Kira excitedly rushes to the door, wanting to open it for John, but Madeline stops her. She says, "This is a trick by the watchers. It's luring and manipulating them." Then asked Mina what exactly she had done. Only then did Mina tell her about entering the cave, but Kira insists on opening the door. Madeline has no choice but to make a request, ask about something only John knows. When John is unable to respond to the question, Madeline realizes Snoop disguised as John, but Kira doesn't give up and demands her husband to film his own face with a camera. John opens the camera, but at that moment, John is dragged away, and the watcher appears. The group quickly aligns themselves in front of the mirror, because Mina broke the rules. The watcher angrily crashes into the mirror. Madeline was in front of her protectively. Fortunately, she is unharmed. The next day, Madeline throws the bicycle back into the cave, and warns Mina to follow the rules. Winter arrives, daylight grows shorter, the cold wind is biting, and food becomes scarce. Mina's mental state becomes increasingly disoriented. Under the threat of hunger, everyone's emotions become volatile. The arguments between Danny and Madeline become more frequent. That day, when Mina regains consciousness, Kira is missing from her chair. Mina searches everywhere, and eventually finds Kira near the edge of the cave. Kira is deeply longing for her husband, regretting her coldness that day. She wants to go and be with her husband now. At that moment, they hear Danny scream. He immediately followed the sound and looked for it, only to witness Danny tying up Madeline. He turned and ran after seeing the two men. Kira runs after Danny. Mina unties Madeline, but when the two of them return to the cell, the door has already been locked by Danny. No matter how much they plead, Danny adamantly refuses to open the door. As the watcher is about to arrive, the two people inside the cell stand in front of the mirror, while Madeline takes Mina and hides in a decaying tree hole, hoping to mask their scent. The two of them hold their breath. A watcher appears above them, and then seems to be summoning something. These watchers approach the cell. When they realize the two people are missing, they quickly search the surroundings. Madeline seizes this opportunity. Take Mina to the outside of the prison again. The two of them plead with Danny to open the gate, but there is no response at all. Mina reveals her secret. She and her younger sister were sitting in her mother's car. Mina refused to follow the rules, and her mother tried to roll up the car window, but little Mina wouldn't let, even clamped his hand on the car window, and her mother accidentally collided with an oncoming truck. It was Mina's fault that her mother died, but she never dared to tell anyone. It was all her fault. Mina is not a good person. The guilt of causing someone's death will never go away. She hopes Danny doesn't have to experience such pain. With this secret of Mina, the two of them successfully return to the cell. Madeline scolds Danny, but it's also her own concealment that has led to Danny's lack of trust. Madeline tells them she is a professor of history studying legends and myths. She voluntarily came to this forest to delve deeper into the study of these creatures, and she formulated the rule of returning to the cell after nightfall. All of this is because Madeline once encountered an exact replica of herself, but the duplicate didn't look perfect.
Everything was sort of off.
The Watchers are an ancient species, monsters from mythical legends. They have other names too. Fairies, winged creatures, soul stealers. The Watchers are studying how to become like them. That's why they have been observing the group them. At that moment, the intense knocking on the door interrupted everyone, due to the rule being broken again. The Watchers were furious. Outside, they imitated everyone's voices, trying to enter the house. In a critical moment, Kira discovered something under the carpet, and when they opened it, it turned out to be an underground chamber. Just as Madeline closed the lid, the Watchers broke in. After entering the underground chamber, the group discovered that it was actually a small research laboratory. It was well equipped with supplies and equipment, indicating that someone had been researching the monsters. Through the recorded videos on the computer, they learned that Professor Martin had established a fortified stronghold, named Enclave, at the center of the monsters' habitat. Every day, the monsters stood outside the glass, motionless, seemingly captivated by the professor. But soon, the professor realized that the monsters started imitating him. At first, they couldn't get the proportions right, but they had a strong ability to learn. This frightened the professor, and he decided to replace the glass. Later, the professor hired 13 villagers from the surrounding area every day. He chose people who were poor and had no family. After finishing the work, let them go out for dinner. In reality, he would sacrifice these people to the Watchers, while the professor hid in the underground chamber, waiting for the screams to subside. Although he sacrificed blood, he did not hesitate for the sake of knowledge. The professor believed that if he could master the monster's ability to replicate, it would be equivalent to being able to die and come back to life. During this time, he encountered a little girl with independent consciousness. She was different from the others. She was curious about her surroundings, and even innocent. He focused on studying this particular Watcher. Mina scrolled to the last video. The professor realized that he had been influenced by the monsters, and was losing his humanity. Therefore, he decided to take his own life along with the monsters. However, the professor left behind a small boat, placed on the river at critical point 134. By following the guidance of the birds, there was a chance for the group to escape and find a new life. The professor's final wish was for the survivors to go to his university office and destroy all the materials he left behind. Mina's eyes filled with tears, and she informed the group that they had a chance at survival. She told them to depart the next morning. That night, Kira and Danny danced together to music. Danny couldn't help but confide in Kira. His father was an alcoholic and abused himself. Danny left that home. After hearing this, Keela invited him to leave and move in with her. The next morning, the group prepared to head towards critical point 134. Mina instructed the parrot to guide them. They discovered a strangely shaped manhole not far away. Madeline, based on her knowledge, provided an interpretation. She believed it was the sealed place of the fairy. After defeating the fairies, humans locked them underground. For centuries, they remained trapped until finally emerging to the surface. Legend says they had lost their wings in magic, forever confined to the forest. After sharing this information, the group continued their journey towards the river. They didn't dare to stop, even if it started raining. As the sky grew darker, Watchers began crawling out of the caves. The group hastened their pace. Finally, they crossed the forest, and the life-saving boat appeared before their eyes. They cheered with joy. However, when the girls pushed the boat into the water, Danny was nowhere to be found. Kira was extremely worried. Just then, Danny appeared, dragging John towards them. Sheila reminded loudly, "That person is not John," but it was too late. He was brutally killed by a Watcher disguised as John. More and more Watchers started imitating Danny's appearance. Mina led Kira onto the boat. Since the Watchers couldn't leave the forest, they managed to escape. The next day, they stood by the roadside and flagged down a long-distance bus. They requested a ride from the driver, but Madeline's expression was peculiar. Mina returned home and washed off the dust from her body. Then, as agreed, she went to the professor's office. She prepared to destroy the documents. Mina played the recording of the professor before he left. It revealed that when the fairies and humans coexisted peacefully, they could be guardians, friends, or even partners. But the hybrids changed everything. They had the ability to shapeshift, even taking on the appearance of the deceased. However, historical records suggested that the hybrids were extinct, though this claim was never confirmed. Mina organized all the materials and was about to leave when she noticed something unusual. She found Kira and discussed the matter with her. It turned out that the professor's wife was Madeline, who had passed away from lung cancer, and the person she spends day and night with is actually a Snoopers. Mina realized that they may have brought the monster out of the seal. It should be sent back. Just then, the real Kira got off the car. Mina finally realized that the person in front of her was a watcher. When the real Kira walks into the house, she is knocked unconscious by the Snoopers. Mina had no way to escape. Snoopers hate humans. It was humans who made them hide underground for centuries. The Watcher would never let Mina go. The Watcher kept changing its form, until Mina realized she herself had been imitated. The Watcher grabbed Mina's neck, ready to take her away from this world. In a critical moment, Mina tells Madeline what she learned from the professor's recording. Madeline could survive under the sun, and even leave the forest, because Madeline is a hybrid of a human and a fairy. She's not just a Snoopers, she's human. At Mina's persuasion, Madeline grew wings, and flew away, to seek her true self. Mina also reconciled with her sister. Although Madeline had left, Mina still felt there were eyes watching her from the shadows, disguised as various roles, observing her every move, as if guarding Mina. The movie ends here. The film is adapted from the novel of the same name. It tells the story of a girl who, by chance, ventures into this mysterious forest. In this unknown territory, she encounters several companions, but unfortunately, they all fall into a predicament together. Whenever night falls, there will be a group of monsters watching them. After going through various setbacks, the three of them manage to escape by luck. And in this story, there are two paths of redemption. One is Mina. In her childhood, she caused her mother's death, and for the following 15 years, she has been living in escape and self-blame. After enduring hardships, she finally chooses to let go. And the other is Madeline. This half-human, half-fairy hybrid has faced rejection from both races since birth. Under the influence and inspiration of Mina, she regains her wings and magic, and ultimately becomes Mina's guardian. If you enjoy my channel, please consider subscribing.